Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I've been trying to get the camera angle right. I'm in a new place, not very much room, and the light is terrible in here. So I'm gonna wait for you all to join, and hopefully this works. I'm trying a different approach where I've got it overhead. So it looks like someone is watching. Hello, if you're watching. Hi Martha, could you do me a huge favour? What I'm going to do is just lean over the page like I will when I am working and just tell me that you can't see like my body or my head or something. So let's just try it. So I'm going to need to be like this. Can you just see my hands? I've not got my head in the way or anything. Is that okay? Before I start, I don't want you to just have a view of my head for the next hour or so. Is that looking okay? I can't quite get the whole page in. Hi Martha. Hey Kasha. Kasha, can you just tell me? Can you just see my hands when I do this? My head's not in the camera or anything like that before I start. Just so I'm not in everyone's way. How about if I do that? Should be okay. You don't see the head. It's all good. Excellent. Right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So Louise asked on the other page, she just got a kind of journal, like a little just hands. Brilliant. Thanks, ladies. She just got a journal for her partner. She wants to put some photos in, and it has black pages, so we're going to use black pages. It does also have, it's like a ring binder or a punch page I saw down the side. So we're going to use something like this. This is just a scrapbook album that my brother gave to me. Similar could be like this album. So I'm just going to start by some inspiration, I guess. So obviously these kinds open up and we can take the pages out, which makes it much easier, whereas this style is not so easy to remove the pages. So the idea, what I'm going to do, Kasha, is a double spread in a scrapbook. It's bigger than Louise's. She said it's slightly smaller than A4. This is I think an 8x8 album, but the idea will be the same. You just obviously scale down. So firstly, some things to bear in mind when we scrapbook in things like this. So my pages, I'll give you a look at this. I haven't posted this yet. I'm really proud of this one. So generally my pages are very 3D. So this kind of thing is not going to work in here because when we close the album, it's not going to shut properly. So that's something you need to bear in mind firstly. So it's kind of more like an art journal, if you like. My art journal I just have, where did I put it? No, I don't. Well, anyway, so we need to bear in mind, hi Louise, we need to bear in mind the kinds of things we use in. Big heavy embellishments are not going to work in this because we won't be able to close the page. So that's the first thing you need to think of. Maybe the papers, perhaps. A lot of these albums, they're not designed for mixed media, very wet mediums. So we need to make sure that the page is going to be able to handle what we put on it. So preparation of our surface is going to be important. Then looking at black. Black can be, it's not difficult, but you have to think about things. So black absorbs colours. So if we use colours, say for instance ink, something that's going to soak in, explaining myself properly, we're going to use something that is a flat colour, so no shine in it, just an ordinary spray. Let me give you an example. So if we were to use, she says, so take this for example. So this is an ink that is just colour, so it's just pigment. There's no shine in it, no mica, no metallic. That's not going to show on here as it is because it's black. It would absorb the colour. You would just see a very slightly different colour. So that's another thing to bear in mind. So we need to either prep the surface and lighten it with white gesso, or we need to use things that are going to show on the surface. So stuff with mica, so these are shimmery, or something very heavy like impasto paints, heavy gesso, texture mediums, so texture pastes are great, they're going to sit, so stenciling. So that's just sort of something to think about. So there are different it's the same ideas as when we scrapbook, but we have to think a bit more. Okay, that's basically what I'm getting at. I'll shut up and get on with it now. So yeah, I like to grab things out before I start. So this is, for me, is a bit more challenging in that I need to think not too much height and bulkiness. But so looking now at black, so I'll just bring in this page that I just done and I'm gonna post about today that I haven't done yet. I love black and white. I think it's a great way to challenge yourself, and rather than getting wrapped up in colour, it pushes you a bit more, I think, because you try and think of different ways to use things. So if I bring this in, this is just some stenciling, but I've used a couple of different stencils. So there's one here, one there. Then I've actually used black paint. This is the impasto paints, and these are a matte, so, and it's very dimensional, so this adds some texture and it's different to the paper, so that's something. You could go for a shiny paint as a contrast to the matteness. I've put some mini texture beads, art stones. So they're dimensional but not too much, so we could add that. Stamping is great way to add lots of interest, but look in black and white and it's, I feel, quite striking. So there's some metals that I painted again with the impasto paint. So there's lots of ways that black and white can be interesting. Hi Louise, I was just saying I've got a 8x8 album, so I've got black pages and I've got the same sort of idea as you, although I believe, are your pages removable, more like this style? If so, makes it a bit easier. And the monochrome theme, you can add colour, so you can go black, white and a colour. So a few more pages I had that I think will work with this. So this is more colour than black and white, but my colours here were black, white and red. So Louise is looking to do an album for, hi Tracy, oh hi Kriya, I missed you as well, for her partner. So I think red, pink is a good colour for, you know, love, romance. So you can add that to black and white. Here I've got some tags and just strips of paper, very simple, but again I think it looks quite striking. This was another one. So again, just die cuts. Here's small photos. So I like to use multiple photos a lot when I use small photos. So this could be, again, something really useful for you, Louise. Okie dokie. Just simply put on some papers that have been distressed with a little tool, or you could use your scissors. So that's I think that's a woodware one. Tim Holtz does one. Again, your scissors are fine. Or just lay it up slightly, so just on foam tape, not too much dimension. But here's some embossing, another great way to add a little bit texture, but it's not too much. And this was white gesso, so that's another one. So lots to think about. So shall we get started? I had a bit of a thought while Louise mention what she was trying to do, and I thought we could do a black and white. So I've got black pages and maybe a splash of white on there. So I'm going to start by adding some gesso. But as I said before, this is the scrapbook page, so more intended for traditional scrapbooking like this, like my brother has done for me here. But I want to put wet mediums on. So the very first thing I'm going to do is cover the whole of the 2 pages in clear gesso. So clear gesso is thinner. This, as it says, is heavy, so it's got dimension. So all I want to do here is not add texture, just protect my pages to stop stuff soaking through. So that's what gesso does. It protects this so our wet mediums won't seep through the page, and it gives a bit of bite to the page as well to let things stick to it. And obviously, being clear, it's not going to change the colour of our page. So if you, for instance, had a pattern paper as your background that you wanted to keep the pattern, clear gesso will be the best one for you to choose, because you're not going to alter that at all. It has no pigment at all in it and dries clear. So let me just find a suitable paintbrush. Ah, there they are. I'll put them on the other side. Thanks, Louise. So this is my clear gesso. This is a Prima one that I'm using. There are other brands. If you're just starting out and maybe you don't know if you're going to use all these different things, but you want to get some gesso, I don't think this brush is clean. Clear gesso would be the recommendation from me, because it can be used black, white, you know, any color pages, because it doesn't add any pigment, but it still does that job of protecting your page. So yeah, if you're just starting out, definitely clear gesso would be the one I recommend. And I'm not being you know, I'm not not doing this carefully or anything. We don't need loads and loads, because I'm not going to drown my page. I just might add a few touches of ink, so that's all I'm looking for. So excuse me while I just pop the heat gun on for a second. Oops. We have, I think, 2 types of gesso. There might be another one, clear gesso. So we have that one and Fabrica de Coru one. And another good thing about gesso is it dries very quick, unless you've sort of piled it on. There is no need to do that though, unless you're using gesso as a dimensional thing, like a paste. You don't need to pile it on. We're just looking to protect the surface, so not crazy amounts we need. I've gone a bit thick there. And it will dry clear, so if you've got bits where it's just a bit thicker, don't worry, it will turn eventually. I won't worry about that bit for now. So we've just protected our page. Now I'm going to use the heavy white gesso. Now I'm using this now, not so much to protect the page, but I actually want it to colour my page. And the reason I'm using gesso and not acrylic paint is because acrylic paint is plastic in quality. So if I were to put acrylic paint on, and I wanted to add, say, ink sprays or something wet, the acrylic paint would resist it, and I wouldn't be able to get it on there because it's plastic, like it would run away. So gesso is also good for that. Also, acrylic paint's expensive, and it comes in much smaller jars. I mean, this is the really big one, or you can get 8 ounces, and it's much cheaper. So it's pretty much the kind of primer, I guess you could say, that's in your paints. So it's a chalk base, kind of that chalky feel. So that's what gives it the bite. So let's just go for something along those lines. So I'm just using a palette knife because I want to get a bit of texture. And with this being a heavy body, that's what it means. It's thicker, so you can see the difference between that and the clear gesso I just used. So we can get a little bit of texture in here, which is nice. And also the palette knife is thin, so it allows me to create some shape as well. So I can control a lot better and get some texture. Oops. Okay, that looks good. And I'm keeping in mind all the time, because I do struggle with this, to not go crazy, that we need to always be bearing in mind how high our page is getting. And also with these pages, if they get too heavy in these kind of systems, they can start to rip away from your album, which is then very annoying, because you can't really put it back without losing some of the page. So right, I'm going to dry again. Thanks for watching, everyone. I wasn't expecting a lot of people to be on at this time of day. So we've now protected our page. We've added a little bit of colour as well with the white. Gesso is semi coverage, so this will dry with a bit of the black showing through. It's not acrylic, it's not a solid colour, it just coats the surface. So that's good as well though, I think, on this page, because the heavier bits will be whiter looking, and then the lighter bits we'll see the black through, so it gives a bit more interest. Now at this point I'm going to start adding wet on top, so it's important that the gesso is really dry this time. Otherwise that's going to start mixing with your ink sprays or whatever it is you add on top, and it will get a bit yucky and messy, and also it's going to dilute the colour a lot more. That's another benefit of clear gesso as well, because there's no pigment to it. If you then want to put, say, ink sprays or paints or whatever on top, you'll get a much truer colour and bolder colour because there's no pigment, whereas the white is going to lighten it. The dark would, it would be not a darker colour, but not as vibrant, because it will absorb some of that colour, if you like, because of the way light reflects in light and dark. So if you think back to school, if you can remember using the prisms in science and seeing how light reflects, it's all that. It's a bit of science there for you. So I think we're almost dry. I'm just being extra careful at this stage because I don't want it to mix. So sorry for a bit of a long intro there, but I wanted to just share some things with you. I'm trying to learn to slow down, and that first page, the black and white one, was done over 2 days, and I actually spent, while I wasn't very well, I did all the stamping and cut it all out, and we might use some of that today as well. Okay, yep, we're dry now. Just a little patch there. So now we can add colour that doesn't have to have shine in it, because we've put the white gesso on. So that white gesso allows us to add any colour now on top without it being absorbed into the black. It doesn't have to be shiny. Chalk inks or like distress inks will show on black though, because of their properties. They have a similar property to like the gesso, this chalky feel, so that's okay. So I've got a few things I thought we could add. I don't want too much colour because I want the emphasis to be black and white. So I've got magic paint in red wine. This is Fabrique de Cour. I don't think we have this colour in at the minute, but it is one I'm ordering. But I can't remember. It either came in on my last shipment or it's on the next one I'm ordering. But we do have lots of different colours of these. So these are kind of similar to your Brushos or Lindy's Magicals. More Lindy's Magicals because they're pigmented and shimmery. Be careful when opening them. and you just tap a little bit. They are very strong in colour, so you start lightly and then you can always add more. And we'll go a little bit onto the black as well, because these have shimmer in. The shimmer will show up on the black. And then we just spritz with water. You could do that off the page and then apply it onto your page with a paintbrush. My water spray has gone a bit funny. 1 second. Something's happened to this one. I think it's got bashed during the move. It's spraying out a bit strange. So can you see that bit shimmer? Thanks, Korea. Yeah, I try to always explain. I find it really infuriating when you go to a class or whatever it is, you have a lesson or at work and it's like, do this, do that, and you're like, okay, that's nice and I see that, but you know, why does it do that? Or what else can I use that for? I like to know more, because especially when you pay for a class, you know, some of them aren't cheap, so you want to be able to take away from it something that you can learn again, use again rather, I think. So hopefully that was helpful. Maybe a bit too much info in one go if it's new to you, so you might want to watch that later. I will put this up on our YouTube channel after as well, and in our group. So the YouTube channel is the same name, Thompson's Craft Supplies. The group is the same, Thompson's Craft Supplies, but says group, or is it the other way around? One says page. Anyway, you can find it all. When you're using a water spray or ink sprays, do stop every so often and give it a dry. We don't want it to get too wet. I'm just going to grab my kitchen roll. If we get the page too wet, we're going to lose the integrity of the paper. It's going to start, you know, turning to pulp and get very mushy and not good. Also, if you're using different colour ink sprays or whatever it is, if you keep applying them while they're wet, you're just going to mix those colours together into one big colour, which more than likely, if you're using opposites of the colour wheel, you're going to end up with brown smush. So it's a good idea to stop and dry every now and then. So if you watch colour, sorry, I'm just reading some comments. If I set up a watch party on my page, I don't think you can see my comments. Oh, I'm not sure about that, Louise. I've never tried doing that. I think no. If you commented on your page, I don't think I would. No. You'd have to comment on my video here, I think, but don't quote me on that. So now I'm just applying a little bit of Distress Oxide spray in Picked Raspberry, and I'm just using the end of the nozzle to tap that on, and I'm gonna spray again lightly with water, and what that'll do is get the oxidization process working. So what it is in oxides is there's two types of ink, pigment and dye, and those the different parts try to push each other away. So what you'll get, see here, you get like a ring, so where the different inks are pushing each other apart. These, Louise, are really great, and the different mediums you mix them with, they have different effects. They're really cool. So just like that, you'll get real shimmer. If you mix them with things like gel paint, you'll get the pigment, and yeah, it's really cool. So now let's try again. And there's one other thing I'm going to add to the kind of background. we'll add a little bit of stenciling. I should probably have done that before I added the pigments. Talking too much, see, lost track of thought. Something you have to accept as well when you're doing mixed media, and you'll get over it, is that you will cover a lot of what you do up, and that's fine. You just have to accept that, because it's a process, it's ongoing. Bit gesso wasn't dry there. And you can always, like, if you really like this colour and you lose a lot of it, we can always put some more on at the end. It's not the end of the world. So that looks quite pretty. Stenciling. Right, I had a few stencils here. So I grabbed a few of my favourites. So this is an AB Studio one, like a half doily. And you can flip it over and make it a full doily if you wanted. I thought squares might work. That's a Prima. This is a Meramis Small Art one we have in shop. This is the Crafters Workshop Tiny Dots, I think it's called. I think we still have that in, and another AB Studio one. So what shall we go with today? I don't think squares or lines. This one, AB or Crafters Workshop, what do you think? A or B? Vote now. or this one. No. So A or B. Doily. Anybody else think doily? Shall we use doily? Was this A? I've forgotten. This one? And doily. We could use both. Oh, this one. 2 votes for A. Oh no. Oh, 2 votes for B. Ah. Okay, should we do a little bit of all three? Let's do a little bit of all three, just to please everyone. Okay. Right, I'm going to use, now there's different kinds of modelling paste we can get, different brands, you know, basic could just be a white modelling paste. So bear in mind, again, it has colour. If you don't want colour, then you would be better using a gel medium, a heavy gel medium. So something like 3D Gloss Gel or heavy body gel is really good for stenciling, because it's, as it says, very, very dense. And whatever you coloured it with, say I coloured it with this, it would keep that colour, whereas if I want to mix paint with the gesso when it's wet, it's going to dilute the colour. This with white gesso would become a pastel colour. So again, things to bear in mind. You can use modelling paste, dry it and then put over the top, but that's going to be harder to then colour. So again, just think about what it is you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to please you all, so we're going to have a bit of everything. I'm actually going to use paper paste. So what this is very similar to modelling paste. It's white colour, but it has a very soft feel to it. So I thought with this kind of romantic feel, that would work well. On the description it says it has a texture of handmade paper. So if you've ever had handmade paper, let me just make sure I'm not getting in the way. Oops. So let's go some doily here. And when I'm doing stenciling, so you want a firm grip, so I use my finger and thumb like this. And I always say to imagine you're buttering toast, so we're not stabbing it. We don't want to peel back off all the paste. Nice smooth motion, in a long swipe, if you get what I mean, if you can. So sort of not completely flat, kind of a 45-degree angle, I guess. Don't worry if you go over a little bit, you can always scrape that off. You can wipe that. It's fine. So there's a bit of that one. Now I need to dry it, because if I put my other stencil down, I'm going to knock that off. Mod Podge, it's not something I've used very much, so the important thing, whatever you use, has to be matte, so it mustn't have a glossy finish, because anything wet you put on top is going to run off. So anything, so you could use matte medium, for example, or anything that's matte should be fine. What other things? So yeah, matte medium, soft gel, it may be called as well, matte medium. So this would be fine, soft matte gel. So it just has to have that matte quality. Anything that says gloss is not going to work. So if I put this on, liquid's going to run off. Okay. Excuse me, I'm still a bit croaky. I had the flu last week, which has thankfully gone, but I've been left with a bit of a croak and a sniffle, so excuse me. Modelling paste wise, I've been using the Fabrica Decoru one a lot lately. I really like it. It's very dense, so when you like dry it, it puffs up really nicely and it gives a really crisp stencil. Prima as well, you can't go wrong with. It's pretty much, you know, once you find something you like to use, buy a few different ones and see what's your favorite. Everyone has a different taste, so that's good. So can you see it's got like a bit of a crispness to it? It's not smooth, so that's quite cool. And let's change it up and make it a bit different. So we'll use something glossy to give a different look. I won't use 3D gloss gel because that takes a while to dry, and same with heavy body gel. Have I got any left in here? There's a little bit left, so let's use this for the other two. Whoops. So we'll go one side and one the other. So no, I wanted to use something glossy, didn't I? Sorry, I'm being dense. Oh, the black, that's what you gave me, Kasha. This is the die cut you gave me when I was at your house. I'm going to use that in a minute with some embossing. So something glossy. Let's see. Let's use the Fabrica 3D gel because that doesn't take too long to dry. It's not as dense as the Prima. You will get a crisper quality from the Prima one, but it still works okay. You just have to be a bit more accurate, I guess is the word. So let's do, so with thinner mediums it's harder. You won't get a crisp image, so it's okay, but see, I caught it there. Hi Nikki, hi Cleo. I'm sorry, I'm really not been looking at comments. Oh, and I've turned my camera around. Whoops. Hold on. Are we back? We're back. Hi Cleo. Sorry if I've not said hello. I've missed you. Do say hi again and I will try and look. Yeah, so the density of what we're using is important when we want to stencil. If you're using something like you wanted to use an ink, maybe use a blending tool or a sponge. You might find that works a bit better than a palette knife because you can apply more weight onto top of it. See, it's not too bad, but it's not perfect, but it's going to give us something. Right, so also important with stenciling is, especially if you're using something very sticky or very heavy, that you clean your stencils straight away. Now I'm obviously demoing here, so I can't go and wash in the sink. The best thing is in hot soapy water. If you can't do that straight away, then just a quick wipe with a baby wipe will get the worst off and you can soak them properly later, which is what I tend to do. So just a quick wipe. If you've got any stencils that are very delicate, very intricate bits in them, or they're not as sturdy, perhaps just be very careful when you do that. So let's get the worst off. Now I just give myself a wipe. So I'm now covered in paste. Okay, so that's a bit more interest, and we need to dry that gel. So we'll see now when we apply on top anything, the difference between gloss and matte. Hope that will help. And there's nothing wrong with using gloss. It's actually create very interesting effects. It's a great way to create layers because you can use the gloss to trap the colour underneath. So it's really something good to play around with. You just need to think carefully about your layers. So perhaps if you're starting out, safer to go with a matte, something with a matte finish. But yeah, as you get more experienced, and you know, you kind of get the processes in your head, gloss is very interesting. Especially on backgrounds. So say you could do a colour, and then when you put something glossy, so it could be gloss gel, it could be what's the stuff called, glossy accents, anything like that, it will just trap that colour. And then the next layer you put on top, that where the gel, where anything glossy is, that's protected. Okay, that's nearly dry. Dry enough, I think. Been on 40 minutes already. See, I'm talking too much. I should be like halfway at least by now. Oops, that's drying a bit too much. Bubbled up. Right, so let's show you the difference. So I will take something liquid. Let's get a different ink. Let's get that red I had before, fuchsia. So on the matte, this is going to be fine. No, this is not a good spray. Okay, we won't use that one. Let's try this one. Oops, see, it's absorbing and it's taking the colour. Here it will resist because it's glossy. Okay, so, and again about colour, see the pink on the black is at the moment disappearing, and we'll only get the shimmer. So that's a pigment and shimmer, so we'll get the shimmer on the black but not the colour. So if I dry that, we'll see it starts to push away from the stenciling here, but here it will stay. Right, so we've got some interest in our background now. So we have applied gesso in a different colour. We have done some stenciling in 2 different mediums, in paper paste, which is a type of texture paste, and in a gel medium, 3D gel, to get 2 different looks, so a gloss and a matte finish, so contrast. And we've also added some colour in ink sprays, in a magic paint, which is similar to your Lindy's Magicals or Brushos. And we've added ink sprays in Lindy's and Distress Oxide, so 2 different types of ink. Okay, now we're going to work on our actual page. Okay, while that just dries, I'm going to just take this out the way a second. Don't sit on the chair. I had an idea, just my messy page. I had this die cut and I thought we could do some embossing, and because the page has that divider, I'm going to chop in 2 scissors, and I'm going to use half on one and half on the other. If you wanted to be accurate, you could use your trimmer. And I'm going to emboss these. So this is another way we can add interest, and it's flat. So I've got an embossing ink. You don't have to use embossing ink, just an ink that's not fast drying, because you need time for the ink to you know, to stay wet while you apply the powder. So as long as it's not a fast drying ink, that's fine. You can use any kind of ink, and you want to get lots on there so that the powder's going to stick. Okay, and then I'm going to flip my page over because I've now got that on the back. And we'll have, I pulled out a couple. Let's go for this like sparkly one. So I'm going to cover the whole thing in that. Be over generous, and then you can pour it back into the container after. Okay, this is very sparkly, isn't it? And then you could use tweezers to pick this up, would stop you tapping any off. Okay, just put them to one side, and then we're going to pour this back into our container. You can get the little trays with like a chute on to do stuff like this, or if you do beading and things like that. Okay, and then we're going to bring, just in my book to lean on, back our die cut. So that's covered, and that'll sit like that till we dry it, so there's no rush to dry it. And so what you're looking for is the embossing. It will go liquid and it will go glossy, so you should be able to see when it's done. It's much easier using coloured ones, but you can still see it on the clear. Oh, I don't like that embossing powder. It's smelly. I think it's because it's an extra glittery one. Oops, sorry, I just hit the camera. Oh, this one is actually quite hard to tell when it's done. It's so glittery, I can't actually see it very well. Oh, it's not turning. I have had that one a while, maybe it's gone off a bit. So I'm going to use these under my layers that I'm going to build up. So again, another flat thing. So die cuts are really useful. You can do some stamping and cut them out. Cut out some parts from your papers. So I'm going to do those things in a minute. This is not turning. Be very careful when you're doing this. I think it is, but it's just so glittery it feels like it hasn't. I'm not overly impressed with that embossing powder. I have had it a while though, as I say. They do go funny after a while for some reason. I don't know what, must be something in them that goes off or something. Are we all ready for Christmas? Is that a bad question to ask? I'm trying to... Sorry, I will keep hitting the camera. I'm just trying to send a message, but it's not working. I don't know if this is going to turn or not. This embossing should not take this long. I think I've got a funny embossing powder. No, that's not turning, so we may have to abandon ship on that one, which is a shame because it looks really pretty. So unfortunately we'll abandon that idea because I've got a funny embossing powder. So instead I've got, so from this page that I did, move it back. So from this page, all these stampings, I've got more of those, so I thought we could use some of that. And the butterflies maybe. So that's an acetate. So that's another great way to add something different. So it's glossy and will sit nicely over things so you can see what's underneath. I've got some die cuts. I've got this little trim, but it's gloss, so contrast. I've got this little tag I pulled out. So let's pull some bits out. So some leaves. Try not to lean over you. Some leaves. Another leaf. Let's have different leaves. I like threes a lot. Threes please me. Ones and threes. I don't like even numbers, so ones and threes, sometimes fives, but mostly ones and threes. Our page is starting to curl because we're heating it. That's fine. One way we can resurrect that, that's not the word I mean. We can heat from the other side, will help, and just put something heavy on it when you're finished will all help. So let's use these things. Also got some chipboards and grey boards. So these are from Hobbylicious. So I might use some of those. And these will be coming soon in the new year. So we've got from AB Studio. They're about A4, these sheets, but there are some different sizes. All sorts of things I've got. I thought wings might be good for this romance feel. So we've got grey board and chipboard. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with the wings for definite, which aren't in a colour I like now for this page. So I will put white gesso on them, or white something. So we choose the size. Let's have this size. We'll use that instead of the die cut to build on top of. So now you spend a bit of time getting your background right, and once you start building your layers, it will come quickly from then on. So you just have to have some patience and get that right, and from there it will be much quicker and you'll start to feel happier. Okay, so I'll need to pop all these little bits out. They do come out really nicely actually. I'll just use my fingernail or a pair of scissors. So just quickly pop those out. A little pokey tool or something you've got. They're really quite thick. I don't like that with chipboards. I tried the chipboard too normally because they're quite thin and you end up breaking things, but these come out really nicely actually, and I've not damaged anything. And let's say I'm just using my thumbnail. Even the little fiddly ones come out pretty easy. So there's one wing. Yeah, I think these sort of wings, you know, hearts, flowers, anything with a soft feel. So you could add fabrics, like lace, doilies, you know, anything with that kind of romantic, delicate feel for something for a loved one. So like your partner, maybe it's your kids, your pet, you know, anything about love. That's gonna work nicely. Actually now I'm quite like the colour against that. I might keep it like that. So there's our little pile. You would have photo. On this occasion, instead of a photo, I'm going to use a sticker, which I have put down here. So these are the Finnabair, like little portrait photos. And I'm going to sit down now and we're going to start building our thing. I always like a word or a saying as my kind of title, so I've got a whole pile of those. Something else you could add that I'm sure most of us have a great big pile of is washi tape, because it's flat, so it's perfect for art journaling, albums, etc. So we might incorporate some of that. So let's get on with it. So I've got glues, I've got 3D gel for anything heavy or a bit you know, bulkier, so things like this to make sure it definitely sticks. For papers you can use tape or glue or a lighter gel like matte medium, whatever your preference is. Just for those bulkier things you need something a bit more substantial. Now we can use foam tape here. Foam tape, not too thick, so as long as we're careful and we watch our composition, it's not getting too high, then the pages will shut still. So let's crack on, shall we? Now obviously you've got to accept that you cover some stuff, but we don't want to cover it all or we'll lose all our hard work. So I like to have a play first and see how things look before I commit. Another reason I like using gel, because it is forgiving. It gives you a bit of time to pick it up and move it around, whereas tape or hot glue guns, it's kind of, it's stuck, that's it. Without ripping your page to pieces, you're not going to be able to move that again. There's a little piece stuck in here. There we go, got it. Right, so I'm thinking that I need to put something here. Flatten this down again. So I think that's going to be, or do I go off to one page? Maybe. So you want to pick a focal point. So if we did this, the focal point is going to be the center. So I wouldn't then want to put this over here, or is my eyes going to be, do I look here or here? or we could put this over here with this coming out to the side, and then maybe you could have this page for some writing. So I'm feeling more this look. So we decide which is the prettier page, so which we will leave more blank. So I think this is the prettier side, so we'll go on this side and cover that up. So, but we don't want to lose too much, so let's go like that. So something like that, and then we could have this popping underneath. Maybe this tag coming out here, just make sure you can see. So let's move a bit more this way as we're working on this page. So something like that, and then we still want something here to balance, otherwise this is too heavy, but we just want it to be not as much so that our eye is drawn here still. And we can use lines as well, so we can use the washi tape maybe to draw our eye this direction. So that little cluster looks okay there. Now I have got, my surface is uneven from this gel and this paste. So in this occasion I am going to stick everything with 3D gel so that I'm confident it's going to stay. I want to just snip that end off of that. So it doesn't like that white bit showing. That's better. So I'm just going to use palette knife. So this is the Freaka 3D gel I'm using. A palette knife or a paintbrush, whatever your preference is. Not that one though. I like a flat one. Huh, can I find a flat one now? Here we go. Just because you can get right in there. And I prefer the plastic ones usually. Some metal ones are okay, but some don't have as much bending, I feel. It's whatever suits you, whatever you like best. I'm going to stick that here to the side of my, I like this bit, so I want to keep that bit open. And just again, when gluing, to bear in mind, so what quality does your glue have or gel? Is it matte? Is it gloss? So if it's gloss, you might not want any of that to show. So just consider that. Okay, so we're going to put that there. So we'll quite quickly build up our layers now. You see how I can move it a little bit with gel. We have some drying time, but it sticks enough that you can carry on working. Everyone's still watching. Wow, thank you. Makes me happy. Thank you for sharing, by the way, Kasha. I didn't say, I did see your note. Okay, so that's that. And here, so that's going to go here in a minute. Let's think on this side then for a second. So we still want to make sure that the pages are connected. We just want this to be our main focus. So I'm going to use the washi tapes, like I said. So I actually have one that's an arrow. So if I'm clever, I can have the arrows point in this direction. So it again draws our eye. So I'm going to take those away. And I'm going to go across both pages so that it follows. I don't like it perfect, so I tear it. That's another thing I like about washi. You can just tear it. This is a Dina Wakley tape, and this is good because it's matte again, so you can actually colour this with paints or inks or anything. So we're going to kind of follow that up to there. So now see, that's helping draw our eye this direction. Okay, so this is a very simple way. So lines in our work are really handy. We can add another tape. Let's go for this other black one. This is more black than white, so just something different. I don't know, I think this might be Stampin' Up one. I'm not sure. I haven't bought Stampin' Up for ages. I don't really buy it anymore, but I did buy some bits when I first started out. So again, I like my 3s, so I'm just adding it there as well. 3, just smaller bits to bounce. Bit on there. Okay, so that looks much better already for me. There's something here, but it's making me look this way still. Okay, so what else? So we've got our little leaves we could put over here, maybe. Is it too much? I can't see what I'm doing again now. Can you see me doing here? Not quite. Let me move over. Move the water out the way before that ends up on the floor. Okay, yep. So I'm thinking something here to bounce all this. I don't know if that's too big. I think I'm going to keep them for over there. Let's find something smaller. Maybe even literally just something like that. That's too small. Something a little bit bigger. Yeah, that could work. Now I just want to lift this up a little bit, so I'm going to use foam tape behind this one. So my foam tape is quite a thin one, but it just adds something a bit different. And I like foam tape as well when you're working on something uneven. It'll still generally stick, and if it doesn't quite stick, you can just pop a bit of gel on the back, and you can squish foam into the stenciling, if that makes sense. Whereas if I put, say, wood or chipboard or something behind it, that wouldn't you know, something like this isn't going to bend to the surface. Does that make sense? Whereas foam will mold around. Okay, so I've got that, and that just needs a little something else. I did have some coloured washi tape, so maybe just something to make it pop a little bit. I had this like dark reddy brown. I was obsessed with these American Crafts glitter washi tapes. So when I had my big washi tape clear out, this was one I definitely couldn't get rid of. So I like glitter. Okay. Let's have a few bits of that. Oops, it's stuck to my other hand. Right. Let's just tear off 3 little bits, like my 3s. So it's like this, sparkly. And we'll pop those coming out from the butterfly. Oh dear, I should have cut that with scissors. Let me just trim that. That looks a little bit too messy. And you could make like this little cluster off the page and then stick it on. I quite like doing that sometimes, or prepping things when you've got a little bit of time but not enough time to make something full, or you just don't feel like doing a full project but you want to do something. Make some little clusters, so layer up some bits and bobs, and then it's like a ready-made embellishment you can pop onto your scrapbook page or a canvas or anything. They're really handy. You keep them not too big and they'll work for most projects. So now I'm thinking these could come out under here. We need to be mindful of this, so it can't go like that, or it's gonna bend when we shut the book. Yeah, I think, and again, I think I'll use foam or something behind that just to raise them up a little bit. So where did I put the foam tape? Over here. And we're actually going to be nearly done, so I'm going to add words and my picture in a moment. And then we'll be done, I think, pretty much. I'm deciding whether I want a little bit more colour. So that's my next thought coming up. So that's going to go there. This one. No, this one I can't really add on foam tape because the bits are too small. But I have got some little foam squares that might possibly work. And we see what I'm doing still. I'm trying to be very mindful of where the camera is. Yeah, and then this one, foam squares, here we go. So yeah, I think they're just about small enough. Let's see. Yeah, in the middle of the leaves will work on a few of them. So it'll hold the weight of the piece. Not have to do everyone. Do one there. Right, that should maybe one of those because I can't do the top one. Obviously, there's a hole in it. Right, so let's try that. Stick them down well, and they are a little bit fiddly. You kind of need to use 2 fingers for these little ones. Where did that go? I'm forever finding the backs of these foam stickers everywhere. You could use, I suppose, a little scrap of chipboard or MDF and stick it on with glue. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to lose the centres. I like the centres in on this occasion. Oh, one's just come out. Okay, that one's coming out then. Yeah, you could just glue a tiny bit of something on the back there instead, if you don't like foam dots and stuff. Okay. Right, so you're going here. Just about. Whew, that was lucky. Okay, right, this is going to go on top. I'm going to just chop that little bit off there. Right, so it sits better. So I need to glue this on now, just checking that I'm happy with everything underneath before I do. Yes, I am. This is quite a thin gel, so really want to now be sure that this sticks because that's what our photo is going to sit on. So I'm going to use the Prima 3D gel this time because it's very heavy bodied. So you'll see the difference now between what we've used before and this is much denser. So I'm having it that way. So I'm just using my palette knife and just dabbing. It's not heavy, this piece, so we don't need loads and loads. But yeah, I just want to make sure it is going to stick. So there's a wider bit there, so we can pop a bit more there. And then pressing that down. It doesn't all have to stick, as long as enough of it make sure I got it the right way in. As long as enough of it's connecting, then it'll hold it. As I say, it's not a heavy piece. We're only putting a photo on top, so it hasn't got weight on top of it. So when you are doing your scrapbook pages, canvases, etc., if you're putting anything heavy on, make sure that it is, whatever's supporting it, you know, they're stuck together well. So in that case, I would use heavy body gel if you want to be absolutely sure that it's stuck. Glue gun would work, but it's not permanent glue gun. They will come off. Okay, so we've got a composition. We just need to add our photo, or in this case I'm using a sticker, which I'm going to put onto some paper. So we need to decide what we're using. So here, Louise, you could even cut out, you could be clever, you could cut out, if you had a full length picture of your husband, his like figure as the angel, or his head. Quite like this lady, and I might give that a go of cutting it out like I just said. Does that look right? Should come back to her. I think a darker rather than paler. Yeah, a pale is too pale next to this pale chipboard, I think. So should we try that with the lady? Cut out, let's give it a go. So I'm going to pop it onto some card so that it's got something to then stick onto the chipboard. So let me just find something. So I've just stuck it onto some card, and now I'm going to cut out what I want. So I'll do a kind of outline around her till I'm sure that I like that idea. And then I may cut more off. I'm not a fussy cutting extraordinaire, so I very often do leave an outline around things when I cut out. Yeah, I like that idea, that looks good. I'm going to leave it round, but I'm just going to round the head off a bit. There we go. Yeah, I like that, that looks good. And in fact the size works well, actually, really exaggerates the wing. So we'll use the same 3D gel again, just to be sure she sticks on there for good. I'll often use 3D gel for everything when I'm working. It's just reliable, and I don't need to then have loads of different things out. Okay, so she's stuck. This is quite a different style for me, actually. I think I'm actually mastering the more delicate look, finally. I don't think it needs a lot more, or else we're going to spoil it. So I'm going to get words. So I didn't think these would go, but now the colours here, it might actually work really well. So let's see. There's phrases towards the back. So this is the Finnabair sticker books you can find on the website. I want the phrases, so not that colour. There's different coloured papers. Not that colour. This one works though. Yeah, let's try. So let's look at these. So, oh, there's build your wings. Oh my goodness. Surely that has to work. We'll put that out. I just realised there's a pot with no lid on. Let's put that on before it dries up. Naughty, naughty. And when you put these away, especially really sticky ones, just make sure the around the edge is clean. I'm really bad at doing that, and I'm forever getting the lid stuck. So let's just check that there's no others we like better. Oh, there's one that says Soul Whispers. Oh, I like that saying, Soul Whispers. That's nice. I think Build Your Wings just has to be for this one, because it just, the wings works well, doesn't it? And I like that the page is very delicate, but this writing is quite bold. I think that's a nice contrast to it. Now we need to decide. It could even go on top of the washi here. Build Your Wings. Yeah, I like that there, but then I think we need something small over here. So let's switch to the Tim Holtz. And find, now we'll use the black one because the white's too white with that, I think. So we'll go to the black and white stickers. Yeah, I think that works better. So let's find something that works. Let's see. I hate finding these when I'm on camera because I take a lot of time to choose them normally. This is probably a lot of the time what takes me the longest to choose the title. Out of limitations comes creativity. That's quite nice. I always love that, reading that one. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Oh, with brave wings she flies. Oh my goodness, how lucky have I been today? Right. That's gonna go here next to her. Maybe even goes on. I'm sorry if you just heard that. That was my alarm. And now you may hear a cat. I have a cat that stalks me. I think underneath here. Right, so I'm going to pop that on some foam dots. Thank you if you are still watching. It's miraculous, to be quite honest. This has been a long one. So I did chat a lot at the beginning. So thank you if you stuck with me. That's very kind of you. If you haven't, then I do not blame you. But you can come back and watch it later. It will be up here, and I'll pop on YouTube and on our group. I've made an awful mess today. My partner's going to come home in a minute and he's like, what the heck? There's stuff everywhere. All over the floor where I was deciding what to use. Yeah, like it. Okay, I think it's done. I don't think I want to add any more colour. I think that it's nice. I really don't like this tape here, so I'm going to take that off, I'm afraid. Don't like that. Yeah, that looks much better. Another good thing about not using glues like that. Does need something though. Maybe it just literally needs a bit of ink. Just needs some colour there, I think. Maybe a little bit of the magic paint. Something just not quite right there. Yeah, that's better. Yes, that's better. Ah, that was really bugging me. Okay, I think it's done. So, what have we done? So we've thought about black and white and one colour, and it looks quite striking again. I hope you'll agree. We've learned about gesso, so we covered the whole thing in clear gesso. Then we use the white gesso as a contrast to our black. There is also black gesso, so you could do the opposite, white paper and black gesso. Just remembering that with black, we need to either use metallics, things with metallics in, micas, so that it shows on the black, or something gloss, or something very heavy bodied like this in pastel paint, or with a chalk finish like Distress, so that we can see it. So you can see the magic paint, we can see because it's got shine. Oxide's chalky, we can see it. The ink spray that was flat, you can't see that barely unless you hold it right to your eyes. So thinking about black and white and what we use. We used a couple of different stencils to add slight texture but nothing too raised so our book will shut, and we've echoed that with die cuts, some chipboards, not too big, stuff on foam dots, a little tag. Tape is great to add pattern and colour without again adding height. Just some simple stickers, and there's another sticker, and that was it. It's and it looks pretty good. So have a play. Do try black and white and one colour. It really does make you think about things and gets you to use your art kit, things that you maybe haven't used for a while, especially like stamps. So this was stamp papers here, here. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it was a bit of a long one and I jabbered on, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.